Hi, and welcome back to the Enigmatic universe. I'm Clifton3, and today I found a topic to talk about that I think fits well with The Last Voyage of the Demeter coming out. Of course, in the States, it's already out. In Germany, where I am, it's just coming out tomorrow. So I think, it'll be befitting. Let's go ahead and get into this article. All right, and here's the article that I found, and I think it's going to be pretty damn good. This article came out yesterday from Nathan Vlad. It's spelled differently than Vlad, but whatever. Let's just go ahead and read this article. Sadistic Vlad the Impaler cried real tears of blood, study reveals. Vlad Dracula, the infamous medieval Romanian ruler known as Vlad the Impaler, was the inspiration for the character of Count Dracula. Is considered one of the most bloodthirsty rulers in human history. This identification now seems more apt than ever, as a team of Romanian and Italian chemists has just released a study claiming that Vlad the Impaler literally, and not metaphorically, cried tears of blood. Now, of course, he is portrayed as one of the most bloodthirsty rulers in Europe. There's a reason for that. Now, if you know the history, I don't know, they're probably not going to get into this in this article, but if you know the history of the real Vlad the Impaler, yeah. Look, it was the Middle Ages. The European continent was being overrun by Muslims, by a caliphate, and he wanted to scare the living daylights out of the Muslim onslaught. He wanted to make sure that they were freaking scared to go to his lands, his country, his, So, yes, he fought bloody battles, and he impaled the people from, big wooden stakes that they would slowly slide down on, impaling them. Yes, it was freaking bloody. But do you think that the scare tactics worked? They did. But, of course, the bloodiest ruler of all times. How horrible. But I do like that they made Dracula. Definitely interesting. Research reveals the medical motive behind Vlad the Impaler's tears of blood in an article just published in the journal Analytic Chemistry. Scientists from the University of Catania, Spring-Style Tech Design Ltd., the Romania National Archives, and Politecnico di Milano reported on evidence they uncovered showing that the real-life inspiration for Count Dracula suffered from many illnesses and medical conditions. The study reveals that his tears of blood were caused by a medical condition that would leak blood into his tear ducts, and on any occasion where he felt the urge to weep, while not the most serious of his ailments, The most eye-opening of Vlad the Impaler's disorders was the incredibly rare hemochrisia. I don't know if that's which causes a person to cry tears that contain actual blood. Those who saw Vlad the Impaler shedding tears of blood might have considered it a reflection of his evil nature, rather than seeing it as a medical condition. Letters reveal the bloody tears of the madman Vlad the Impaler. To learn more about Vlad Dracula's health, Romanian and Italian scientists performed a chemical analysis of proteins and peptides removed from the 3 letters he wrote in the 15th century between 1448 and 1476. The original Prince of Darkness ruled over the lands of Vahalia, which today make up the southern half of the country of Romania. For the purpose of this new study, the chemists applied a substance known as ethylene vinyl acetate, I don't know, to the outer surface of the 3 valuable historical documents written by Vlad the Impaler. This chemical can absorb and transform proteins and peptides, protein building blocks, from any kind of surface. And in this case, these molecules were left on the letters by Vlad when he handled them. Using this methodology, the scientists were able to remove remaining organic residue that contained over 500 peptides and proteins, of which 100 were human in origin. The peptides were assumed to have come from Vlad the Impaler and not from any other individuals who may have handled the letters. Since the scientists took samples from areas where the letter writer would be repeatedly touching the paper with the palm and side of the writing hand. Among the peptides recovered were a type of molecular associated with a group of cellular disorders which as celopathies. These troublesome conditions can cause malfunctioning of the organs and lead to the development of many debilitating and painful symptoms of illness. Other peptides revealed that Vlad the Impaler had also had an infection of the respiratory tract at the time he was handling at least one of the letters. This condition may have been temporary, like a cold or the flu, or it could have been a chronic condition that he struggled with for years. How science reveals evidence about Vlad the Impaler's tears, but the most significant discovery from the perspective of the modern observer came from a letter Vlad the Impaler wrote in 1475. From this letter, the chemists were able to extract samples of 3 peptides that came from the retina and the fluid of tears. It isn't known exactly why Vlad would have been crying while writing the letter, but it seems he was, and his tears fell onto it and left behind these chemical traces. Based on the unusual properties of these peptides, the scientists reached the astonishing conclusion that Vlad's must have suffered from hemochrisia. I don't know if that's, don't ask me, in which varying quantities of blood will flood the tear ducts and mix with tears. This condition is ultra rare, which is why it is so remarkable to discover that a person well known in history actually had it. And not just any person, but the man who was the real life version of literature and film's most famous blood-drinking vampire. From studying secretions alone, the scientists were not able to diagnose the underlying cause of the hemochlorisia. I don't know. I pronounce it different every time. So keep the mistakes and let me know which one's the real pronunciation. This condition can develop after a person suffers from bacterial conjunctivitis, or if they have some type of injury to the area close to the tear ducts. In some cases, it can be caused by a tumor in the eye area. The amount of blood produced by a case of hemochlorisia can vary greatly from person to person. Some people who get it will cry tears that are only slightly tinged with red, while others will cry tears that are so blood saturated that they appear dark red. Crazy. It certainly would have been appropriate if Vlad the Impaler's eyes leaked tears the color of pure blood. Vlad's bleeding eyes revealed his true character and would have undoubtedly struck terror in the hearts of any of his enemies who got close enough to see him crying. The horrific legend of Vlad the Impaler lives on. This new study represents a breakthrough in Vlad Dracul scholarship. To our reckoning, this is the first time such research has been carried out and has helped to bring to limelight the health status of Vlad Dracula, the Impaler. The study authors wrote in their analytical chemistry article, in most instances, the health issues of a medieval prince who ruled over the obscure region of Eastern Europe for less than 3 decades wouldn't generate much public interest, but the exploits of Vlad the Impaler have become the stuff of legend, thanks mainly to the choice by author Bram Stoker to attach his name to a character that introduced the vampire to modern audiences. Vlad the Impaler was arguably much more bloodthirsty than the fictional Count Dracula. Historians have credited him with the deaths of over 80,000 enemy soldiers and innocent civilians during his struggle to keep Valahai independent from the Ottoman Empire. The Impaler labeled refers to Vlad's favorite means of execution, which is how the majority of his victims met their demise. Let's see how long this video goes. 5 minutes. Go check this video out. I'm sure it's very, very interesting. Let me know what you think about it. And if you want to know more about Vlad the Impaler. Events that took place in 1462 reveal the depth of Vlad Dracula's psychopathic depravity that years the Ottoman Empire Sultan Mehmet II led an army of 90,000 men toward Valahai as part of the Sultan's ongoing efforts to conquer the future lands of Romania and absorb it into his kingdom. In order to stop the invasion, Vlad the Impaler ordered the impalement of more than 23,000 prisoners his forces had captured during guerrilla raids into Ottoman territory. As Mehmet's army advanced, they were greeted with the horrible sight of these unfortunate souls, including men, women, and children, impaled on stakes, lining the route to Valahai. Totally sickened by what they saw, Mehmet's army turned around and headed back to Constantinople so that Vlad would stop what he was doing. In a letter Vlad wrote to the king of Hungary, Matthias I, he explained exactly what had happened in unemotional, matter-of-fact language. His soldiers had killed peasants, men and women, old and young. He stated, "We killed 23,884 Turks, without counting those whom we burned in homes, or the Turks, those whose heads were cut by our soldiers." To back up his claim, Vlad produced sacks filled with body parts that had been cut off his victims. Okay, maybe a little more bloodthirsty than I initially thought myself, but you know, I'm sure that since the Turks turned around, I would imagine that they were freaking scared of this guy. In actual fact, none of the men, women, and children who Vlad decided to execute were Ottoman Turks. They were innocent Serbian and Bulgarian civilians whose peoples had been conquered by the Ottomans and who had no affection for their occupiers. Damn. If Vlad the Impaler cried tears of blood after these events, he would have been doing so in joy, not in sorrow. Delighted to know that his efforts to intimidate the Ottoman Empire forces had worked, which they did. Perversely, the terrible nature of Vlad Dracula's deeds are what have made him a legend, and Bram Stoker's incredible, influential 1897 novel and the lead character he created ensured that this true Prince of Darkness would never be forgotten. All right, so that was quite the interesting article, I have to say. I really enjoyed it. I did not know this about Vlad the Impaler. I knew that he was a knight. I knew that he fought the Ottomans, Muslims, that he fought against the Caliphate from moving into East Europe. I know that he impaled people to intimidate his enemy, to make them run, to make them scared. I didn't know that he cried tears of blood. I didn't know that he had more underlying, even worse illnesses going on. Didn't know that. Did you know that? Comment down below. But also comment down below what you think you would do if you saw someone today crying tears of blood. Like, I believe my first thought would be, holy crap, get me a cross, get me a fucking stake, keep this person away from me. Then I would probably be like, oh, you know what? It might be a medical condition. This person might be, totally nice, just some issues. But I would still want the cross and the stake in my hand just in case. I mean, I can imagine that at the time, if someone actually saw him crying tears of blood, that they would be scared out of their freaking mind. Anyway, comment down below what you think. What would you do in this case? Did you know about these medical conditions that Vlad the Impaler had? Or did you just know about Dracula from Bram Stoker? Anyway, I hope you liked this video. If you did, smash that like button, consider subscribing, and if you do, hit the bell for notifications to let YouTube know that you are actually interested in this content. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Until next time, take care, travelers.